Have you ever really stopped to think about the sheer, almost mind-boggling complexity that goes into bringing a truly cutting-edge medicine to life?
Yeah, yeah,
We weren't just talking about, discovering that breakthrough molecule, maybe a therapy that can precisely target cancer cells or offer a lifeline for some rare genetic disease.
right.
The real challenge, the sort of hidden battle, is actually making that medicine reliably, consistently, at scale, so it can, actually reach patients.
It's such an intricate ballet, isn't it? High science and just meticulous engineering.
Hmm.
And it often unfolds so far behind the clinical headline.
Exactly.
Without that really sophisticated manufacturing backbone, even the most brilliant scientific discoveries would, well, unfortunately, they'd just stay in the lab. They'd never make it to the bedside.
That's a really profound point. And that unseen yet absolutely vital part of the whole process, that's precisely what we're going to try and illuminate in today's deep dive. We're pulling back the curtain on a really fascinating, often overlooked corner of the life sciences world, a company called Repligen Corporation.
hmm
They operate squarely behind the scenes, but their work is utterly critical to this booming biopharmaceutical industry. So our mission today is to explore their role, kind of demystify their business, and maybe peek into what the future holds for them.
Yeah, to guide us on this journey, we've really dug into an in-depth investment analysis of Repligen. That's NASDAQ ticker RGEN.
Right.
And this analysis, it gives us a pretty comprehensive lens, a way to examine their unique business, the dynamic market they're in, and, well, the powerful forces driving their strategy.
And why should you, our listener, care about a company like Repligen, especially if you're not an investor, right?
Yeah, that's a fair question.
Because understanding businesses like this, it gives you this unparalleled viewpoint on the entire future of medicine. It shows that innovation isn't just in the drug itself, it's also in the incredibly sophisticated process of getting it to patients.
Absolutely. It's that hidden infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. The hidden infrastructure that truly makes these groundbreaking treatments possible. We're going to unpack some genuinely surprising facts today and hopefully give you a shortcut to being really well informed about this vital, rapidly evolving sector.
And the core thesis from the analysis we looked at, it's actually quite clear. Repligen stands out as a pure-play innovation leader.
Pure play. Okay.
Yeah, meaning they're focused. Their products aren't just, nice-to-haves. They are absolutely essential to the intricate manufacturing of these complex biologic drugs. The company seems to have navigated what the analysis calls a transitional period over the last couple of years. But all the indicators now suggest it's firmly back on a trajectory of strong growth, really propelled by several undeniable and frankly powerful market trends.
Okay, let's unpack that. We hear so much about the latest blockbuster drug or a new vaccine, right? But rarely about the incredibly sophisticated machinery, the specialized materials, the precise control systems needed to actually produce it.
Right, the how.
Yeah, the how. So to start us off, what is Repligen fundamentally? And what does it really mean to be a pure play innovator in such a, specialized space?
Okay, so at its foundation, Repligen Corporation is a highly specialized life sciences company. They're headquartered up in Waltham, Massachusetts. And they have this singular exclusive focus, bioprocessing.
Bioprocessing.
Yeah. And when we use that term pure play, it's important. It means they aren't dabbling in drug discovery or running clinical trials or diagnostics.
Okay.
Their entire existence, their whole R&D budget, their commercial strategy, it's all dedicated to this one absolutely critical area of actually making biologic drugs.
And bioprocessing itself, it sounds like the crux of their existence, but it's kind of a broad term. Can you paint a clearer picture? What does that actually entail?
Sure. So bioprocessing is really the entire intricate suite of activities involved in developing, manufacturing, and commercializing advanced systems and solutions.
Wow.
And these solutions, they fundamentally improve the efficiency, the flexibility, and the quality control that are just essential for producing biologic drugs. Think of it as everything that happens after a potential drug candidate is identified,
Right.
but before it gets formulated and filled into that vial for the patient.
So like the middle part.
Exactly. From carefully growing the living cells that produce the drug, through multiple really complex stages of purification, right up to the final concentration steps, Repligen provides the specialized tools and technologies for basically all those phases.
Wow.
And their reputation as an innovation leader, that comes from their highly differentiated product portfolio. It's designed to solve very specific, often incredibly complex manufacturing challenges that, your standard off-the-shelf solution just can't touch.
So if I'm hearing you right, Repligen isn't developing the actual medicines themselves,
Correct.
but they are absolutely, unequivocally essential to how those medicines are made, how they come into existence. It feels a bit like they're selling the picks and shovels in a gold rush.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Or maybe operating a razor and blade model. Are those analogies accurate here? And how do they really play out for Repligen?
That's actually a very sharp observation. And you know what? Both analogies apply beautifully. They really do. They each highlight a different facet of Repligen's strategic advantage and how they've carved out such a critical position. Let's maybe start with razor and blade, because it's so fundamental to how they generate revenue in this specialized life sciences tool space.
Oh, okay. Yeah, razor and blade. Most of us get that concept. How does it translate into the world of, advanced bioprocessing gear?
Well, it's an incredibly effective model in this industry, actually quite common. The razors, in Repligen's case, that's their capital equipment.
Big machines.
Exactly. Their sophisticated filtration systems, their advanced chromatography platforms. These are significant upfront investments for drug manufacturing.
I bet.
And once a customer invests in one, it establishes this deep, long-term relationship. Because once that system, that razor, is installed and validated,
Right, validated. Key word.
it creates this recurring, high-margin revenue stream from the blades, which are their proprietary consumables. Things like specialized filtration cassettes, single-use flow paths, pre-packed chromatography columns. They're all designed to work perfectly with Repligen's equipment.
So if a drug manufacturer buys, say, a Repligen filtration system, they're pretty much locked into buying Repligen's specific compatible filters and other bits and pieces for the life of that manufacturing process.
Precisely. And here's why this creates such powerful customer stickiness, especially in an industry as regulated as biopharma. The switching costs are incredibly high.
Okay.
In a GMP-compliant process, that's good manufacturing practice, meaning everything is meticulously documented and validated for patient safety.
Right. Super strict.
Changing even a small consumable isn't like just swapping out a shaving blade. It's more like, recertifying a critical component on an airplane.
Wow, okay.
It requires significant time, extensive resources, and often regulatory refiling and validation just to prove that a new consumable will perform identically and won't compromise the drug's safety or efficacy.
So manufacturers are really reluctant to change anything once it's working and approved?
Extremely reluctant. This inherent friction makes them stick with what works. And we saw the strength of this model really clearly in the second quarter of 2025 results mentioned in the analysis. Their consumables revenue actually grew over 20%.
Over 20%. Wow.
Yeah, outpacing the already strong high teens growth that they saw in their capital equipment sales. It just highlights how vital those recurring blades are to their business.
That's a phenomenal combination. You get the initial big sale and then this long tail of high margin revenue. Okay, now let's talk about the picks and shovels analogy for this biologics gold rush. What does that angle tell us about Repligen's position?
Right, the picks and shovels. This concept perfectly captures Repligen's sort of de-risked exposure within this incredibly high-stakes biopharmaceutical industry. Think back to the California gold rush, right? The people who often made the most reliable money weren't always the gold miners themselves. They faced boom or bust prospects.
Sure.
It was often the merchants selling the picks, the shovels, the tents, the essential tools for everyone trying to strike it rich.
Okay, so in the context of biologics, Repligen isn't making a bet on whether a specific new drug will succeed or fail in clinical trials.
Exactly.
Instead, they're selling the fundamental tools needed to make all those drugs, regardless of the outcome for any single therapeutic candidate.
Precisely. Their products are absolutely essential for the process of manufacturing biologics. Doesn't matter if it's an experimental drug in phase 1 or a blockbuster already selling millions. This means their demand is primarily driven by the sheer volume of drugs moving through the pipeline and being produced commercially.
So they're insulated from that binary risk of the drug works or it doesn't?
Very much so. They're insulated from those high-risk outcomes of individual drug programs. And their customer base reflects this too. It's incredibly diversified. No single customer makes up more than 10% of their total revenue.
10%, okay.
And their largest monoclonal antibody customer, only about 6% of sales. This revenue is spread across literally hundreds of different drug programs. That significantly spreads out their risk profile.
And how does that break down, in terms of where these drug programs are in their life cycle? Are they mostly early-stage drugs or ones already on the market?
It's actually a very healthy balance, which is key to their resilience. The analysis indicated approximately 65% of their business is tied to molecules still in various stages of clinical development. That represents future growth potential.
Okay.
The remaining 35% is linked to commercially approved drugs. That provides a stable, predictable revenue base.
That balance seems critical.
It really is. It creates a much more resilient and predictable profile compared to, say, a biotech company focused solely on developing its own drugs. They benefit from the promise of new drugs coming through the pipeline, but also from the steady, often non-discretionary demand of drugs already approved and being manufactured.
That's really insightful. And looking at their overall revenue picture, how diversified are they geographically and by customer type? Does it lean heavily towards big pharma, or are smaller players also important?
Yeah, good question. Their revenue streams show impressive diversification all around. Geographically, for fiscal year 2024, North America was their largest market, about 50% of sales.
Okay, half.
Europe followed with 34%, and then Asia Pacific and the rest of the world made up the remaining 16%. So you see a strong foundation in the mature biopharma markets, but also a strategic and growing presence in emerging regions.
And customer types. Is it mostly the giants, the big pharmaceutical companies buying their stuff, or are smaller biotechs and maybe those manufacturing partners, the CDMOs, also significant?
It's a very healthy mix, actually, which really demonstrates their penetration across the entire ecosystem. In the second quarter of 2025, for instance, the analysis highlighted strong growth from both large established biopharmaceutical companies and from contract development and manufacturing organizations, the CDMOs.
Ah, the CDMOs. They're crucial these days.
Absolutely critical partners for so many drug developers, especially smaller ones who outsource manufacturing. So having this broad customer base spanning the entire drug development and manufacturing spectrum, it just further enhances Repligen's stability and growth potential. And that balance we mentioned between products for clinical stage and commercial stage drugs, that really provides excellent visibility for their future growth outlook.
Okay, this is great context. We understand the strategic big picture now, the business model, the market positioning. I'm really keen to zoom in on the specific tech now, the cutting-edge tools that are putting Repligen at the forefront. Our analysis highlighted 4 primary product franchises. Can you walk us through those? What are they, and how do they fit into this whole bioprocessing puzzle?
Absolutely. So Repligen operates as a unified bioprocessing business, right?
Yeah.
But it's strategically organized into these 4 distinct product franchises. And together, they address critical steps in both the upstream phase.
Upstream that's making the stuff.
Yeah, primarily the cell culture, where the therapeutic molecules are actually produced by the cells. And then there's the downstream phase, which is all about purification and concentration of the final drug substance.
Getting it clean and potent.
Exactly. And looking at their fiscal year 2024 revenue breakdown gives us a good sense of their current focus areas and commercial impact.
Okay, so which of these franchises is the heavyweight, their largest segment right now?
That would definitely be filtration.
Yeah.
It accounted for a significant 58.8% of their 2024 revenue.
Almost 60%. Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. This franchise is absolutely critical. It provides core technologies for things like cell separation, clarification, and concentration at various really pivotal points throughout the manufacturing process. It's truly foundational to what they do.
So what are some of the standout products in their filtration portfolio? What kind of impact are they making inside a manufacturing facility?
Well, their flagship products here include the XL alternating tangential flow systems. They call them ATF systems.
What's TF? Okay.
These are genuinely unique in the market. They're the first and really the only ATF devices available. And they've become the undeniable go-to technology for what's called upstream perfusion processes.
Perfusion, so
Yeah.
continuous processing.
Exactly. These systems enable continuous cell culture and harvesting. So instead of growing the big batch of cells, harvesting everything, cleaning the tank, and starting over.
The traditional way.
Right. The ATS system allows for this constant, gentle flow of fresh media in and spent media out while keeping the cells happily producing inside the bioreactor.
Ah, okay.
And this dramatically increases the viable cell density, basically. How many healthy cells you have packed in there, and crucially, the product yield, how much drug you get out.
More drug from the same size tank? So that's-
Precisely. And this capability is central to a massive industry trend known as process intensification.
Process intensification. We hear that term a lot.
Yes, where manufacturers aim to get significantly more product from smaller, more efficient bioreactors and facilities. It's all about doing more with less.
So it's about radically boosting output from a smaller footprint, which obviously leads to lower costs. But how exactly does process intensification differ from, say, just building a bigger bioreactor? Is it a fundamental shift or just tweaking?
Oh, that's a great question. It's definitely a fundamental shift in approach. Rather than simply scaling up a traditional batch process by building bigger and bigger stainless steel tanks and massive facilities.
Which costs a fortune.
Exactly. Process intensification focuses on making the existing process inherently more productive per unit volume or per unit time. So with something like XLATF, you're not just optimizing a batch, you're changing the whole dynamic, the kinetics of cell growth and product secretion.
Mhm.
You're allowing cells to operate at their peak efficiency for much longer periods.
Okay, I see.
It means achieving significantly more output with less physical space, less raw material consumption, and often in shorter overall timeframes. That absolutely transforms the economics of drug production.
That's a phenomenal visual. So the core takeaway here isn't just that Repligen sells equipment. They're fundamentally selling exponential efficiency to drug makers. That's invaluable. And what about downstream filtration after the cells have done their job?
Right, downstream. After the cells have produced the therapeutic molecules, Repligen offers the cross-flow tangential flow filtration systems, or TFF systems, and their single-use SIUS cassettes.
Crossflow and SEI GIS. Got it.
These are indispensable for those crucial steps of purifying and concentrating the final drug substance, making sure it's pure, potent, and free of impurities before it gets anywhere near a patient. Their whole value proposition in filtration is really centered around directly addressing those critical customer needs, reducing overall manufacturing costs, and accelerating speed to market through these higher yields and exceptionally efficient purification methods.
Okay, so filtration is about getting more of the good stuff out and getting rid of the bad stuff efficiently, both upstream and downstream. What's the second major franchise then?
The second is chromatography. This represented just under 20%, 19.4% to be exact, of their 2024 revenue. This is another absolutely crucial step, primarily in downstream purification. It's specifically focused on precisely removing impurities and isolating the target therapeutic molecule with incredibly high precision from what is often a very complex mixture.
Chromatography
Yeah.
sounds complex. What's unique or particular special about Repligen's approach here, especially given the competition?
Yeah, chromatography is complex. The cornerstone of Repligen's offering here is their OPUS line of pre-packed chromatography columns.
OPS, pre-packed.
Pre-packed. And these are incredibly disruptive to traditional methods. Historically, manufacturers would buy these big, empty stainless steel columns
Right.
and then painstakingly pack them with specialized chromatography resin in-house. This is a notorious bottleneck in manufacturing. It's time-consuming, very labor-intensive, requires specialized expertise, and honestly, it's highly prone to inconsistencies and contamination.
Sounds like a headache.
It can be a huge headache. OPS columns, by contrast, arrive at the customer's facility ready to use. They are pre-packed, pre-qualified, and filled with the customer's chosen chromatography resin.
Ah, ready to go right out of the box. That sounds like a game changer for efficiency and quality control. Less manual handling means less risk.
Precisely. By offering this flexible, pre-validated single-use solution, Repligen enables customers to significantly reduce setup time, drastically lower their operational complexity, and really mitigate the risk of batch failure due to packing inconsistencies or contamination.
Makes sense.
And what's particularly compelling, and a huge competitive advantage for them, according to the analysis, is their open platform model.
Open platform. What does that mean in this context?
It means customers can specify any commercially available chromatography resin they prefer for their OPUS columns, any resin from any supplier.
Oh, okay. So they're not locked into Repligen's own chemistry.
Exactly. This stands in stark contrast to some competitors who might, shall we say, strongly encourage or even require the use of their own, often proprietary in-house resins. This resin-agnostic flexibility that OPUS offers is a huge draw for customers. It lets them optimize their specific purification process using the best resin for their molecule without being locked into a single supplier's ecosystem.
So they're providing this critical piece of hardware, the column, but giving customers the freedom to choose the best filling for their specific needs. That's smart. Okay, we've covered filtration, the big one, and chromatography. What's the third segment of their business?
That would be proteins. This accounted for about 11.7% of their 2024 sales. Now, this is Repligen's original foundational business, and it represents a critical, albeit somewhat hidden, component within the broader bioprocessing supply chain.
Hidden how? Are they supplying something so fundamental that it just gets, I don't know, overlooked sometimes?
That's a good way to put it. The primary products in this franchise are protein A affinity ligands.
Protein A ligands. Okay, what are those exactly?
Think of them like this. Incredibly sophisticated biological magnets. They're custom-designed proteins that are engineered to grab onto only one specific type of molecule in this case, monoclonal antibodies, or mAbs.
Ah, so they stick only to the drug molecule you want.
Exactly. They're like the ultimate selective filter at the molecular level. This makes them absolutely critical for achieving the high purity required for injectable drugs. Now, Repligen manufactures and sells these highly engineered ligands to the major chromatography resin manufacturers, companies like Sativa, for example.
Okay, so they sell the magnet part to the companies making the resin beads that go in the columns.
Precisely. Those resin manufacturers then incorporate Repligen's high-performance ligands into their own resin products, which are then used in those chromatography columns we just discussed, whether they're traditional stainless steel or Repligen's own OPUS pre-packed columns. So Repligen is supplying a key, high-value, performance-driving ingredient to other suppliers further up the value chain.
That's a really powerful, almost foundational position. They're providing the secret sauce, essentially, for other companies' essential products.
Absolutely. Protein A chromatography is universally recognized as the gold standard for the initial capture and purification step for monoclonal antibodies. That's largely because of its incredible specificity and efficiency. And as a leading supplier of this critical ligand component, Repligen holds this really entrenched and highly valuable position in what is actually a quite concentrated and specialized market.
That sounds like a pretty robust position, even if it is a bit behind the scenes. Okay, and finally, the fourth franchise.
The fourth is process analytics. Now, this is currently their smallest franchise, making up just 9.4% of 2024 revenue. But, and this is important, it's a rapidly growing and strategically vital area for the company. This segment is really at the forefront of the industry's big shift towards what's being called Bioprocessing 4.0.
Bioprocessing 4.0 sounds futuristic. Digitalization.
It's exactly. Digitalization, automation, real-time process control in drug manufacturing. This is where the bleeding edge of sensor technology meets complex biological manufacturing, really transforming how drugs are actually made and monitored.
Okay, what kind of tools are we talking about here?
Key products include their C-Tech Solo VPE systems. These use a proprietary technique called slope spectroscopy.
Slope spectroscopy, right?
And this allows for highly accurate measurement of protein concentration directly in line, without the need for sample dilution. Dilution is a common step in traditional methods, but it introduces potential errors and takes time. So getting rid of it is a big deal in a manufacturing setting, saves time, boosts accuracy.
No dilution, faster results. Got it.
And this portfolio was also significantly boosted by that strategic acquisition we touched on earlier in March 2025. They acquired specific process analytical technology, or PAT, assets from a company called 908 Devices.
Right, the 908 Devices deal.
That brought in systems like Maverick and Maven. These are designed for real-time monitoring of things like metabolites, the food the cells eat, the waste they produce, and other critical process parameters inside the bioreactor while it's running.
Ah, so this is a big shift from, taking a sample out, taking it to the lab, running a test, and getting results hours later,
Exactly.
to being able to monitor and control things as they're happening. Almost like having a continuous diagnostic system for the entire manufacturing process.
That's precisely the idea. These technologies enable what's known as process analytical technology, or PALT. It's a framework that's actively encouraged by regulators like the FDA.
The FDA likes this stuff.
They do, because PALT allows manufacturers to move away from that traditional, often slower post-batch quality testing towards continuous real-time monitoring and, ideally, control. This leads directly to a whole host of benefits. Improved product quality, consistency, potentially significantly higher yields, fewer manufacturing deviations or failed batches.
Fewer failures is huge.
Huge. And ultimately, faster release of drug batches to patients. It's really about building quality into the process from the very beginning, rather than just trying to test for it at the end. It's a fundamental step towards fully automated, intelligent biomanufacturing.
That's a really comprehensive look at their technology stack: filtration, chromatography, proteins, analytics. It's clear they're deeply embedded in pretty much every critical step of bioprocessing. Now, let's maybe pull back again and look at the bigger picture, the broader industry. What are these major tides of change, these powerful long-term trends in bioprocessing that Repligen seems to be riding so effectively?
Right. Understanding these macro drivers is absolutely crucial. The bioprocessing industry is truly dynamic. It's rapidly expanding, and Repligen's impressive growth is directly linked to these powerful long-term secular trends. You really need to grasp these to appreciate the full scope of their market opportunity and why they seem so well positioned.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Just how big is this market we're talking about, and what kind of growth are we seeing? Is it really that explosive?
It really is substantial and growing quickly. Estimates from the analysis put the global bioprocessing market at around $80.5 billion in 2024.
80 billion, okay.
And the projections indicate really strong growth, a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of about 11.86% to reach potentially $228.7 billion by 2033.
Wow, nearly triple in less than a decade.
Exactly. Other analyses project similar robust double-digit growth, maybe in the 11% to over 14% CAGR range. And the key thing here is this isn't some cyclical industry that just ebbs and flows with economic trends. It's underpinned by fundamental, arguably irreversible shifts in medicine and healthcare. That makes it remarkably resilient.
Those growth figures are truly staggering. It paints a picture of an industry just on fire. But for our listeners, it's important to understand why. Why isn't this just a temporary boom? What are the bedrock forces pushing this incredible expansion?
Well, the primary engine driving all this growth is the increasing global demand for biologics.
Biologics, the complex drugs made from living cells.
Precisely. These are the large molecule drugs derived from living organisms, things like monoclonal antibodies, vaccines, recombinant proteins. They've genuinely become the standard of care for a vast range of chronic and life-threatening diseases. Think various cancers, autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis or Crohn's disease, infectious diseases. The list goes on.
Right.
And as global populations age and the prevalence of these complex conditions continues to rise, the demand for effective biologic treatments just keeps accelerating. There's a fundamental need.
And what about biosimilars? We've heard a lot about the wave of patent expiries for some of the biggest biologic drugs, Humira, Remicade, and others. How does that factor into Repligen's growth story?
That's a huge accelerating factor. You've got two things happening. First, the pipeline of new biopharmaceuticals is expanding at an unprecedented rate. Biologics are forecasted to represent something like 55% of all innovative drug sales by 2027.
More than half.
More than half. Yeah. And concurrently, as you said, that wave of patent expiries on blockbuster biologics is unleashing a massive market for biosimilars. These are near identical, but significantly lower cost versions of these established drugs.
Making them more accessible.
Exactly, making life-saving therapies more accessible globally. Now, crucially for companies like Repligen, these biosimilars require the exact same rigorous bioprocessing technologies for their manufacturing as the original Innovator products.
Ah, okay. So it doesn't matter if it's the original or the copy, they still need the same tools.
Precisely. This creates a significant volume-driven tailwind for suppliers like Repligen, completely independent of the final drug product's pricing. Whether it's the Innovator drug or the biosimilar producer ramping up, Repligen benefits from the sheer manufacturing volume. It's a win-win for them.
So whether it's the original biologic or a biosimilar competitor, Repligen still benefits from the manufacturing demand. That's a powerful de-risking factor. What other revolutions are shaping this landscape? Any other big trends?
Oh yeah. Another revolution, truly transformative in nature, is the explosion in new therapeutic modalities. We're talking particularly about cell therapy, gene therapy, and also mRNA-based therapeutics, like the recent COVID vaccines.
Right, the really cutting-edge stuff, KRT, gene editing.
Exactly. These advanced therapies are genuinely rewriting the therapeutic rulebook. They offer the potential to cure diseases, not just manage them, diseases that were once considered completely untreatable. The cell and gene therapy manufacturing market, just that segment alone, is forecasted to grow at an astonishing CAGR, potentially exceeding 26%.
26%, that's incredible growth. But these therapies, they have very specialized manufacturing needs, don't they? It's not quite like making a standard antibody in a giant tank. These are often living cells or delicate genetic material.
You've hit on a critical point there. These therapies, whether they involve engineering a patient's own T cells or using viral vectors to deliver genes, or manufacturing delicate strands of plasmid DNA or mRNA, they have a highly complex and specialized manufacturing workflows.
Makes sense.
They often require smaller, more flexible manufacturing setups compared to traditional large-scale biologics. And they are heavily heavily reliant on single-use technologies.
Why single-use specifically for these?
Primarily to manage that complexity and, most importantly, to prevent any risk of cross-contamination between batches, which could be catastrophic when you're dealing with living cells or genetic material intended for a specific patient.
Okay.
Now, Repligen has strategically targeted this segment. They've been proactively developing tailored solutions that directly address these unique challenges. This is positioning them as a key technology provider in arguably the fastest growing and, frankly, most exciting corner of the biopharma industry today.
So they're not just passively benefiting from these trends, they're actively adapting their technology, their tools, to meet the specific demanding needs of these cutting-edge therapies. What about the broader push for just efficiency in manufacturing generally?
Right. That brings us neatly to the efficiency drive and the accelerating shift across the board to single-use technologies, or SUTs.
SUTs, disposable manufacturing components.
Exactly. The industry is undergoing this profound paradigm shift, moving away from those traditional, large, fixed stainless steel manufacturing facilities
The old way.
towards smaller, more flexible, more agile facilities that are built around these single-use technologies. Think disposable bioreactor bags, pre-sterilized tubing assemblies, single-use filtration units, those pre-packed chromatography columns we talked about.
What are the big advantages driving this shift so rapidly? Why ditch the steel tanks?
The advantages are incredibly compelling, and they fundamentally improve the economics of manufacturing. SUTs entirely eliminate the need for costly and time-consuming cleaning and sterilization procedures, and crucially, the validation of those cleaning procedures between batches.
Ah, no cleaning validation. That saves a ton of time and hassle.
A massive amount. This drastically reduces the risk of cross-contamination. It significantly lowers the initial capital investment needed to build a manufacturing facility. And, crucially, it allows manufacturers to scale production up or down much more easily, or switch between manufacturing different products in the same facility much more rapidly.
That flexibility sounds invaluable, especially with diverse pipelines.
Absolutely invaluable in such a fast-moving industry. So this trend towards single-use is a direct and powerful tailwind for Repligen's core single-use filtration and pre-packed chromatography franchises. The overall SUT market itself is projected to grow at a CAGR of around 15–16%.
That's a truly significant shift, and it sounds like a perfect fit, almost tailor-made for Repligen's product portfolio. And finally, you mentioned process intensification earlier and continuous bioprocessing. How do those fit into this picture of industry trends?
Yes, this is sort of the future is continuous, and it's intrinsically linked to that efficiency drive we just discussed. To combat rising manufacturing costs and simultaneously increase throughput, getting more product out the door, biopharma companies are aggressively pursuing process intensification.
Right, doing more with less space and time.
Exactly. That strategy of producing more product in smaller bioreactors over shorter time frames. Now, a key transformative method for achieving this, especially upstream in cell culture, is through perfusion cell culture.
Perfusion again.
Perfusion again, where fresh media is continuously fed into a bioreactor and the therapeutic product is continuously harvested, rather than that less efficient batch-by-batch approach. Now remember, Repligen's XL ATF systems we discussed earlier.
Yeah, the filtration units for continuous culture.
They are the market-leading and, according to the analysis, the undisputed go-to technology enabling these high-density perfusion processes. This makes the company an absolutely critical partner for any customer seeking to build the next generation of efficient, smaller footprint, continuous biomanufacturing facilities.
Okay, we've painted a pretty clear picture now. Repligen's specialized offerings, these robust market trends propelling them forward. But, it's a fiercely competitive world out there. How does Repligen, which is still relatively smaller compared to some players, navigate these waters? Especially against some truly massive industry giants. What's their realistic competitive edge, their moat?
That's a really crucial question because the bioprocessing supply market is highly competitive. It's characterized by this mix of, multi-billion-dollar, highly diversified conglomerates alongside smaller, highly specialized innovators like Repligen. It's definitely a dynamic landscape.
Who are these giants we're talking about? What kind of scale and scope do they bring to the market?
Well, the dominant players are indeed these multi-billion-dollar life science titans. They genuinely offer end-to-end solutions across pretty much the entire biomanufacturing workflow. We're talking about companies like Danaher Corporation, a huge player through its Sativa and Pall Corporation subsidiaries. They're a market leader in almost every bioprocessing category you can think of.
Danaher, okay. Big name.
Huge. Then there's Thermo Fisher Scientific, another world leader in serving science, massive portfolio, including significant bioproduction capabilities. You've got Merck KGaA, the German company, operating as Millipore Sigma in North America. They're another formidable competitor with a really comprehensive portfolio, strong in filtration and chromatography.
Merck, Thermo Fisher, got it.
And Sartorius AG, another German-based company with a very strong focus on bioprocessing. They compete pretty directly with Repligen in key areas like advanced filtration and single-use systems.
The scale difference is just staggering, isn't it? I mean, Repligen's $634 million in revenue for FY 2024 compared to, say, Danaher's bioprocessing business alone, which I think is somewhere around $6 billion.
The scale difference is immense.
So given these multi-billion-dollar behemoths, how does a company like Repligen not just survive, but actually thrive? What's the real competitive moat that keeps these giants from simply replicating Repligen's tech or squeezing them out?
That's precisely where Repligen's strategy of disruptive specialization comes into play. And it's really their key competitive advantage. Unlike its larger rivals, who are competing across the entire vast spectrum of life science tools.
Trying to do everything.
Right. Repligen is that pure-play bioprocessing company we talked about. This razor-sharp focus allows them to concentrate their R&D firepower and their commercial resources on developing truly disruptive, best-in-class technologies, but in specific, high-value niches, areas where they can achieve clear technological superiority and, crucially, market leadership.
So they're not trying to be everything to everyone. They're aiming to be the absolute best in a few very critical areas. It sounds like they're picking their battles very wisely.
That's a perfect way to put it, choosing their battles. This strategy enables Repligen to function as an indispensable technology partner for its customers, rather than just another component supplier that could potentially be easily swapped out for a cheaper alternative.
Indispensable versus optional.
Exactly. While the larger competitors often offer the convenience of a one-stop shop, Repligen offers unparalleled best-in-class performance in these critical process steps. And this creates what the analysis called toll booth positions in the manufacturing workflow.
Toll booth positions, like you have to go through them.
Kind of. Highly specialized areas where their technology is so superior or unique that it's very difficult for competitors, even the giants, to bypass them effectively. Even customers who buy most things from the large conglomerates often find they have to source specific technologies like the APF systems, perhaps from Repligen, to truly optimize their processes and meet stringent performance or regulatory targets.
That's a powerful competitive moat then, making themselves essential rather than just an option. Can you give us some specific examples of where they hold this kind of market share leadership in these key niches?
Certainly. Let's look back at protein A ligands.
Right, the magnets.
The magnets. While giants like Sativa, part of Danaher and Merck KGaA, dominate the overall market for the protein A resins themselves.
The beads.
Repligen is a foundational, indispensable supplier of the critical ligand itself, that microscopic grappling hook that makes the resin work so well. They have long-term supply agreements, for example, with Purolite, which is another major resin manufacturer now owned by Ecolab. And Repligen's ligands are globally recognized for their exceptional performance and consistency. This essential upstream position in the value chain really solidifies their importance.
They're essentially providing a vital proprietary ingredient that almost everyone else in that specific purification step relies on.
Precisely. Now, in filtration, specifically tangential flow filtration, TFF, Repligen is cited as a clear leader, particularly in the rapidly growing single-use TFF segment and their XL-ATF technology for upstream perfusion. It's truly unique and has established this strong, almost unassailable market position for enabling that process intensification trend we discussed. The overall TFF market is projected to grow at a double-digit CAGR, and Repligen is consistently cited right alongside Danaher, Merck, and Sartorius as one of the top players poised to benefit most from this expansion.
Okay, strong in TFF. And what about their pre-packed chromatography columns? We talked about that open platform advantage earlier.
Right, in pre-packed chromatography.
Yeah.
Repligen's OPUS line is definitely a leading brand in that space. Now, it is a competitive market, no doubt, with the same giants present. But a key competitive advantage for Repligen, as we highlighted, is that open platform model.
The resin flexibility.
Exactly. Allowing customers the flexibility to specify any commercially available resin for their pre-packed columns. This offers a level of choice and customization that really contrasts with some competitors who might push or even require the use of their own in-house resins. This makes Repligen a highly attractive resin-agnostic partner for many customers, and it helps deepen their loyalty.
So they leverage this deep specialization to become indispensable in these critical high-value niches, effectively punching well above their weight against these industry titans. That brings us pretty neatly to their forward-looking strategy. How are they planning to build on this? What are the main pillars supporting their future growth?
Yeah, Repligen's strategy for delivering sustained above-market growth is really built upon three highly synergistic pillars. It's this multifaceted approach that's key to how they plan to consistently expand their technological capabilities, deepen those crucial customer relationships, and significantly increase their total addressable market over time.
Okay, let's break those down. Pillar 1, organic growth through innovation. How does Repligen keep that internal innovation engine running? What's the focus?
Well, at its core, Repligen truly identifies itself as an innovation engine. They seem relentlessly focused on developing genuinely disruptive technologies that directly solve critical, often unaddressed customer pain points within that complex biomanufacturing workflow.
Not just making things slightly better, but solving real problems.
Exactly. This isn't just marketing speak. Their R&D commitment is substantial. The analysis mentions a stated goal of launching 5 to 10 significant new products each year. And importantly, these aren't just incremental improvements or line extensions to existing products. The objective is often to create entirely new product categories or set new standards for efficiency, quality, and performance across the industry.
Can you give us some recent tangible examples of this commitment to innovation? What's come out of their labs lately that shows this?
Certainly. The Crow's Flow RS-10 RPM system, which they introduced in 2024, is a prime example. It's the industry's first and only single-use TFF system, specifically designed for bench-scale cGMP production, meaning small scale, but meeting all the regulatory requirements. And it features fully automated inline protein concentration measurement built right in.
Okay, bench scale GMP. Why is that a big deal?
It's a huge leap because it allows drug developers to use the exact same scalable technology platform from very early stage process development, like when they're just figuring out how to make the drug, all the way through pilot scale and potentially into commercial manufacturing. This profoundly streamlines the whole technology transfer process between development and manufacturing, which historically has been a major source of delays, risk, and cost.
Seamless scaling. Got it. Any other examples?
Yeah, another key launch mentioned was the ProConnex Mix 1. This is a single-use mixing system. What's interesting here is that it strategically integrates components and technologies from several of Repligen's prior acquisitions in the fluid management space. It really showcases how they create synergistic value from their M&A activities, not just acquiring companies, but meaningfully integrating their technologies to create something more powerful than the sum of its parts.
That brings us perfectly to Pillar 2, inorganic growth through strategic M&A. They have a pretty impressive track record here, don't they? And it sounds like, as you just said, this isn't just about buying random companies.
You're absolutely right. It's far more strategic than just random bolt-ons. Strategic and disciplined M&A has been an absolute cornerstone of Repligen's growth story. It's fundamentally transformed the company from what was a smaller, primarily protein-focused business maybe a decade ago into the diversified bioprocessing leader it is today. Since 2014, they've successfully completed and integrated 15 acquisitions.
15 since 2014. That's busy.
Very busy. And management's approach appears highly disciplined, guided by clear criteria. They look for differentiated and scalable technology first and foremost. They ensure it has strategic relevance to their existing portfolio. Does it fit? Does it enhance their offering? And they always seem to adhere to strict financial discipline to ensure strong returns on that invested capital.
And how has their M&A strategy maybe evolved recently? It sounds like they're moving beyond just acquiring individual products based on that analytics deal.
Precisely. Recent transactions really highlight a clear evolution in their M&A strategy. They've moved from acquiring individual products or components to building more integrated intelligent systems, and now even incorporating advanced analytics and software capabilities. That acquisition of 908 Devices' process analytical technology portfolio in March 2025 was absolutely pivotal in their digitization strategy.
The $70 million deal.
Yeah, for $70 million cash. They acquired products like Maverick, Maven, Rebel, and ZipChip. These provide that real-time monitoring of critical process parameters we talked about. This deal immediately strengthened their process analytics franchise. It gave them a crucial entry point into the upstream analytics market where they previously had less presence, and critically, it brought in a team of top-tier analytics scientists and engineers. That portfolio is expected to add about $10 million to their 2025 revenue, so fairly quick impact.
So expanding their technical capabilities in real-time monitoring and bringing in valuable talent, what about their partnership with Novasign? That sounds like another significant step forward into the digital realm.
That's a further and potentially very significant step indeed. In July 2025, Repligen deepened its digital ambitions by entering into a strategic partnership with and also making an investment in Novasign. Novasign is recognized as a leader in bioprocessing modeling software.
Modeling software, like simulations.
Exactly. The collaboration aims to integrate Novasign's advanced machine learning and digital twin capabilities directly into Repligen's TFF systems initially, and potentially other areas later. This is truly transformative thinking. It moves beyond simple data measurement, which is what PKI does,
Right, just collecting data.
to sophisticated data interpretation and prediction using AI and machine learning. The ultimate goal here is to provide customers with truly intelligent systems that can actually predict process outcomes, help streamline process development, and maybe even enable real-time predictive control of the manufacturing process itself. Imagine how that could significantly reduce timelines and costs for developing and producing these complex drugs.
That's a fascinating progression.
Hmm.
From hardware components to integrated systems, then adding analytics sensors, and now layering on AI-driven software for prediction and control. That whole progression seems designed to really deepen customer relationships and widen their competitive moat even further, basically making them indispensable.
It absolutely does. This strategic progression clearly elevates Repligen's value proposition. They're moving from being primarily a supplier of best-in-class tools towards becoming a provider of holistic, intelligent manufacturing solutions. This not only deepens customer relationships by making Repligen a more central strategic partner, but it also significantly widens their competitive moat, making them much harder for competitors to displace.
Okay, and pillar three is market expansion and penetration. How are they achieving this, particularly in those really fast-growing therapeutic areas we talked about?
Right. This third pillar focuses on applying their innovative technologies, both developed internally and acquired, to the most promising and fastest-growing segments of the biopharmaceutical market. A key part of this, as we touched on, is their concerted and deliberate effort to become a leading technology provider for the manufacturing of cell therapies, gene therapies, and mRNA-based therapeutics.
The new modalities.
The new modalities.
Yeah.
This specific segment grew at a low double-digit rate for Repligen in 2024, according to the analysis. And it now accounts for approximately 20% of their total revenue, which is up from about 18% in 2023. And importantly, it's growing faster than the broader bioprocessing market average.
So they're not just observing these high-growth areas from afar, they're actively targeting them, tailoring solutions, and succeeding in becoming a foundational partner there.
Exactly. And through this dual strategy, aggressive internal R&D combined with disciplined, targeted M&A, Repligen has systematically expanded its total addressable market, or TAM. The company estimates that it has effectively tripled its TAM over just the last 4 years.
Tripled their potential market size.
Tripled it to approximately $12 billion now. With a current market share of only around 5% within that significantly expanded TAM, this provides, as the analysis puts it, a long and substantial runway for future growth. It allows them to capture more and more of this expanding opportunity for years to come.
Okay, we've covered their business, their core tech, the powerful industry trends they're riding, and this clear three-pillar growth strategy. Now let's talk numbers. What does Repligen's financial health and actual performance tell us? Does the outlook support this growth narrative?
Yeah, the numbers are crucial, and Repligen's financial performance over the past several years tells a really compelling story. It's one of rapid, almost explosive growth, especially during the pandemic peak. That was followed by a challenging but seemingly well-managed post-pandemic normalization period, and now, importantly, a strong subsequent reacceleration. It's really a journey through distinct phases.
Okay, let's track that journey. Starting with their historical performance, maybe looking back from 2019 up to 2024. What were the key chapters in their financial story during that time?
All right. From 2019 to 2022, Repligen experienced truly extraordinary growth. It was significantly boosted, as you'd expect, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Their revenue surged from $270 million back in 2019 to a peak of $802 million in 2022.
Wow, nearly tripled revenue in 3 years.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal compound annual growth rate of 43.7%. Now, this was driven partly by robust underlying demand for their core bioprocessing products, but also by significant and very high-margin sales related directly to COVID-19 vaccine and therapeutic manufacturing. That alone contributed over $140 million in revenue just in 2022.
So a massive temporary boost from COVID-related demand, But then 2023 saw a dip. The analysis called it a transition year. What exactly happened there, and how did they seem to navigate it?
Correct. Fiscal year 2023 marked a necessary transition year for Repligen, and frankly, it mirrored a broader normalization happening across the entire bioprocessing industry post-pandemic. Revenue declined that year to $632 million. That was primarily because that high-margin COVID-related business tapered off significantly. It contributed only about $25 million that year, down from over $140 million.
Big drop-off.
Huge. And simultaneously, customers across the industry began to work through the excess inventory they had accumulated during the supply chain crunch of the pandemic. This is what the industry calls destocking.
Right, using up what they'd hoarded.
Exactly. Then in 2024, the business largely stabilized. Revenue held relatively flat year over year at $634 million. Those COVID-related sales fell even further to a negligible $11.5 million. And importantly, the effects of that destocking finally seemed to subside by the end of the year, which really set the stage for the recovery we're seeing now.
Okay, so they weathered that storm. But how did this period, the intense growth, followed by the transition, impact their profitability? Margins often tell a more nuanced story than just revenue, right?
You're absolutely right. Margins are critical here. Adjusted EBITDA margins expanded dramatically during that high-growth 2019-2022 period.
Yeah.
They actually peaked near 35% in 2022, which is a real testament to the high-value nature of their products and the efficiency gains they achieve.
35% margin, that's very healthy.
Very healthy. However, those margins then compressed significantly down to 19.8% in 2023 and further to 18.5% in 2024. This compression was really a direct result of losing that super high margin COVID revenue, combined with a less favorable product mix as the core business reestablished itself, and also some non-recurring restructuring charges, about $47 million taken in 2024, mainly to rationalize some manufacturing capacity after the boom.
Okay, so margin pressure was real, but did they stay profitable?
Importantly, yes. Even with these headwinds, the company remained profitable on an adjusted basis throughout this period, and they generated very strong operating cash flow, $178 million in 2024 alone, which was actually up 56% year over year. That was mainly due to better management of working capital like inventory and receivables. So they were prudently managing cash flow even during that challenging top line and margin period.
So they navigated those challenges, managed cash well, and now it sounds like the story is clearly one of reacceleration. What do the most recent results from Q1 and Q2 of 2025 show? Is that momentum truly building as the analysis suggests?
The financial results from the first half of 2025 unequivocally confirm that yes, the post-pandemic transition appears complete, and Repligen has returned to a strong, consistent growth footing. In Q1 2025, they reported revenue of $169 million. That represented a robust 14% organic, non-COVID growth year over year.
14%. Solid.
Solid. And this performance actually accelerated in Q2 2025. Revenue reached $182 million, which was up 17% on that same organic, non-COVID basis. This sequential acceleration across the first two quarters of the year demonstrates clear, broad-based momentum across their entire portfolio. It wasn't just one franchise carrying the load.
That's a very significant bounce back, and acceleration is key. What's the most compelling leading indicator for future performance? What should listeners look at to confirm this reacceleration looks sustainable?
Without a doubt, the most compelling leading indicator is the company's order book. Order intake, new orders coming in the door, grew by high teens year over year in Q1, and then it accelerated further to over 20% growth in Q2.
Order growth exceeding revenue growth.
Exactly. CEO Olivier Loyos specifically highlighted on their earnings call that Q2 2025 marked the 8th consecutive quarter where their orders exceeded their non-COVID revenue. And it was a 5th consecutive quarter of sequential order growth, meaning orders grew from Q1 to Q2.
That sustained positive book-to-bill ratio sounds incredibly important.
It's critical because it means their revenue backlog, the orders they have yet to fulfill, is consistently growing. This provides strong visibility into their performance for the second half of 2025 and likely well beyond. It's a clear signal of ongoing, robust customer demand for their products.
That's a powerful signal of sustained demand, definitely suggesting their growth isn't just a temporary blip. What about their margins? We saw they compressed. Are they recovering as strongly as revenue and orders seem to be?
Yes. Profitability is also showing clear signs of recovery as the business returns to a more normalized growth pattern. That adjusted EBITDA margin improved significantly from a low point of 14.4% back in Q1 2024 up to 19.3% in Q1 2025.
Big jump back.
Big jump. Now, the Q2 2025 margin was 17.6%. That's essentially flat year over year compared to Q2 2024. But importantly, that was despite ongoing strategic investments in R&D and sales force expansion to fuel future growth. So managing to grow the top line strongly and invest for the future while maintaining or slightly improving. That margin profile is actually a pretty good sign.
Right. Investing while holding margins steady is positive. Now, a strong and flexible balance sheet seems crucial for a company like Repligen, relying on both significant internal R&D and strategic M&A. How does their balance sheet stack up? Do they have the financial firepower?
They absolutely do. Repligen maintains a truly strong and flexible balance sheet, which gives them considerable strategic optionality. As of June 30, 2025, the company held an impressive $709 million in cash, cash equivalents, and short-term investments.
Over $700 million in cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their total debt primarily consists of some convertible senior notes that aren't due until 2028, and their debt-to-equity ratio was very manageable, around 33.28%. This solid financial position provides them with significant capacity to continue funding their ambitious internal R&D pipeline and pursue their disciplined strategic M&A agenda without taking on undue financial strain. It's really a war chest that allows them to be opportunistic when the right deals come along.
Yeah. And finally, wrapping up the financials. What's their guidance for the rest of 2025 and maybe looking beyond? Does management's own outlook align with this reacceleration narrative we've been discussing?
It absolutely does align, reflecting that strong performance in the first half of the year and the positive forward visibility from the order book. Management actually raised its full year 2025 financial guidance back on July 29, 2025.
Raised guidance, always a good sign.
Definitely a positive signal. They're now projecting total revenue for the full year to be between $715 million and $735 million. That implies reported growth of 13 to 16% over 2024. More importantly, the robust organic non-COVID growth is guided to be strong, between 12.5% and 15.5%.
So double-digit organic growth expected.
Yep. They also anticipate continued margin expansion for the full year. Adjusted gross margin is expected to be in the range of 52% to 53%, which is up nicely from 50.4% in 2024. And that adjusted EBITDA margin is guided to be between 19.5% and 20.5%, a clear improvement over the 18.5% they achieved in 2024.
Margins ticking back up.
Ticking back up.
Yeah.
And their adjusted earnings per share, EPS, is projected to be between $1.65 and $1.72, showing healthy growth over the $1.58 they reported in 2024. Looking beyond 2025, the projections cited in the analysis suggest analysts expect sustained double-digit revenue growth and continued margin expansion back towards those historical pre-pandemic levels in the coming years.
Okay, so the numbers largely confirm the story. A company successfully navigated its transition and seems firmly back on a strong, sustainable growth trajectory. But, no company operates in a vacuum, and certainly no investment is without risk. What are the key risks Repligen faces? And crucially, what are the mitigating factors? How are they working to manage those risks?
That's a critical component of any thorough analysis, absolutely. While the overall investment thesis for Repligen appears compelling based on the analysis, a clear-eyed assessment of potential risks is always necessary. We can broadly categorize these into, say, market and competitive pressures, operational and execution challenges, and finally some financial and governance concerns.
Okay, let's start with market and competitive risks. The biotech funding environment, in particular, can be quite cyclical, right? And that impacts a chunk of their customer base.
Absolutely, that's a significant consideration. A substantial portion of Repligen's customer base, particularly those smaller clinical stage biotechnology companies, relies heavily on venture capital funding and public equity markets to finance their R&D and manufacturing activities.
They live on external funding.
Many do. And the biotech funding environment experienced that sharp downturn in 2022 and 2023, sometimes called the biotech winter. While it's shown encouraging signs of recovery in 2024 and into 2025, a prolonged or renewed downturn in funding could lead these specific customers to conserve cash. That might mean delaying capital equipment purchases, maybe slowing down the progression of clinical programs, which would undeniably be a headwind for Repligen's growth.
That makes sense. So what's their defense against that potential volatility? How insulated are they from the ups and downs of biotech venture funding?
Well, this risk is substantially mitigated by their highly diversified customer base, which we touched on earlier. Remember, approximately 35% of their revenue comes from commercially approved products. Demand for those is much less sensitive to the vagaries of biotech funding cycles.
Right. Commercial products need ongoing supply.
Exactly. Furthermore, a large and growing portion of their business is with very well-capitalized large pharmaceutical companies and those big contract development and manufacturing organizations, the CDMOs. These larger players often maintain or even increase their R&D and outsourcing activities during market downturns. Plus, the inherently non-discretionary nature of many of Repligen's consumables, they're required for ongoing clinical trials and manufacturing, provides a very stable and resilient base of recurring revenue, regardless of funding cycles.
Okay, diversification helps buffer that. And what about that intense competition we discussed earlier? Those multi-billion-dollar giants like Danaher and Thermo Fisher are still very much in the market. How does Repligen consistently defend its specialized niches against them?
Indeed, that competition is real and intense. Repligen competes against some of the largest and most well-resourced companies in the entire life sciences industry. These competitors wield immense scale, they have vast global sales forces, and they possess the ability to bundle a wide range of products together, potentially at discounted prices. This could theoretically be used to exert pricing pressure or encourage customers to consolidate suppliers away from niche players like Repligen.
So, how do they consistently hold their own against that kind of bundling power and scale? What's their ongoing strategy?
Repligen's primary defense, as we discussed, really comes back to its core strategy: technological differentiation and that disruptive specialization. By consistently focusing on being the best-in-class innovator in specific critical niches, they create products that customers will actively seek out purely for performance reasons, even if it means purchasing that specific item outside of a larger vendor's bundled offering.
Performance trumps the bundle sometimes.
It often does in critical applications. And their open platform approach, particularly prominent in their OPUS chromatography franchise, is also a key competitive advantage. It fosters customer loyalty by giving them choice and flexibility, rather than locking them into a single vendor's ecosystem.
Okay, moving on to operational and execution risks. Their impressive growth strategy relies heavily on M&A, as we've seen, so integrating those acquisitions successfully must be a significant ongoing challenge.
Yes, M&A integration risk is very real and inherently complex. While Repligen's track record is strong, any future acquisition, especially a large one, carries the inherent risk of poor integration. Maybe a failure to realize the anticipated synergies, or potentially overpaying for the asset in a competitive bidding situation. A significant misstep in a large, transformative acquisition could indeed significantly impact their financial performance and strategic trajectory.
But they do have that proven track record, as you noted, 15 successful acquisitions since 2014. Does that experience help mitigate the future risk? Does practice make perfect here?
It absolutely helps mitigate the risk. It doesn't eliminate it, but it helps significantly. Management has demonstrated a disciplined and successful approach to M&A over more than a decade now. Their focus on that technology-first philosophy, ensuring strategic fit, and adhering to strict financial criteria has historically led to value-accretive transactions. And importantly, they've built an experienced internal integration team over time. That institutional knowledge and process maturity is invaluable when bringing new companies and technologies into the fold.
And what about basic operational risks? Supply chain disruptions, manufacturing quality, those are always a concern for a global manufacturer making complex, critical products like these.
Absolutely. As a global manufacturer with facilities in North America and Europe, Repligen is certainly exposed to potential disruptions in its supply chain for critical raw materials. They're also subject to broader inflationary pressures on input costs. And any failure to secure necessary components or manage manufacturing quality consistently across their sites could impact their ability to meet that strong customer demand we just discussed. That would be a significant challenge, potentially damaging customer relationships.
So what measures do they have in place to mitigate those kinds of supply chain and manufacturing vulnerabilities?
Well, Repligen operates a geographically diversified global manufacturing network. Having multiple sites producing similar products provides inherent redundancy and enhances security of supply. If one site has an issue, others can potentially pick up the slack. The company has also demonstrated considerable success, according to the analysis, in offsetting cost inflation through a combination of continuous internal productivity improvements and strategic price increases. The ability to pass on price increases speaks volumes about the strong value proposition and relative inelasticity of demand for their highly differentiated products.
Okay, finally, let's look at financial and governance risks. The analysis we reviewed mentioned a material weakness in internal controls over financial reporting. That sounds Well, it sounds potentially serious from a governance perspective. What's the story there?
It is indeed a significant governance risk factor that requires close attention from investors and stakeholders. In its recent quarterly SEC filings, Repligen has disclosed the existence of material weaknesses, specifically related to its internal control over financial reporting.
What does that mean, practically?
Practically, it indicates that there were deficiencies identified in the company's processes and controls that are designed to ensure the reliability and accuracy of its financial statements. Such weaknesses can, if left unaddressed, increase the risk of financial misstatements occurring and going undetected. And prolonged issues here could potentially erode investor confidence over time.
Okay, that definitely sounds serious. So, what's being done about it? And what should listeners or potential investors monitor regarding this?
Well, the company has publicly acknowledged these weaknesses in its filings, as required by regulation, and they stated that they are actively implementing a comprehensive remediation plan to address the identified deficiencies. For listeners and stakeholders, it's crucial to closely monitor future SEC filings, their 10Q and 10K reports, for management's updates on the remediation progress, and ultimately confirmation that these material weaknesses have been fully resolved. The fact that their financial results are independently audited by a major external accounting firm does provide an additional layer of oversight and scrutiny in the meantime.
Okay, so something to watch closely. And lastly, on the financial side, despite their current guidance for margin expansion, is there still a potential for margin pressure down the line? What could cause that?
Yes, while management guides for continued margin expansion in 2025 and likely beyond, profitability can always be subject to pressure from various factors. These could potentially include a significant shift in product mix towards relatively lower margin capital equipment sales in certain periods, perhaps higher than expected costs associated with integrating new acquisitions, or maybe increased competitive pricing pressure from those larger rivals, especially if the market slows unexpectedly.
So how does Repligen aim to defend its margins against those potential pressures? What gives them pricing power?
The primary defense against margin pressure comes back to the high degree of differentiation across Repligen's product portfolio. The analysis estimates that approximately 80% of their revenue comes from these highly specialized, often best-in-class products where they have strong technological leadership. This provides a significant buffer against commoditization and pure price-based competition.
Performance commands a premium.
To a large extent, yes. Additionally, that significant recurring revenue stream from their high-margin consumables, the blades, provides a very stable and predictable base of profitability. Furthermore, the company's ongoing disciplined focus on operational efficiency and manufacturing optimization should continue to provide leverage and support margin expansion as their revenues continue to scale up.
That's a truly comprehensive look at both the incredible opportunities and the tangible risks, and importantly, how Repligen is actively working to navigate them. We've really taken a deep dive today into Repligen Corporation.
We truly have. And, to maybe bring it all together, the core narrative that emerges from the analysis is really one of a highly specialized, focused innovator. Repligen isn't just passively riding these massive, undeniable industry trends like the explosion of biologics, the rise of biosimilars, the groundbreaking new modalities like cell and gene therapy. In many ways, they're actively helping to shape and enable these trends. And they're benefiting profoundly from those cross-currents, like the accelerating shift towards single-use manufacturing and continuous bioprocessing.
Yeah.
Their smart, multi-pronged growth strategy, combining that aggressive internal innovation with disciplined strategic M&A, seems to be translating directly into that re-accelerating financial performance we discussed, and arguably a widening competitive moat over time.
What really stands out to me most, I think, is their fascinating business model. It's, like you said, part picks and shovels provider in this biologics gold rush, and part razor and blade model locking in recurring revenue. It truly illustrates how their targeted innovation allows them to punch well above their weight class against these industry giants, holding those really valuable toll booth positions in critical manufacturing steps. It absolutely highlights the profound power of the underlying shifts in how we actually make these life-saving medicines. And it shows how companies operating, mostly behind the scenes, are truly foundational to all the medical progress we see headlining the news.
Indeed. It's really a testament to the idea that sometimes the most impactful innovations aren't always the most visible ones, but they're often the most indispensable.
And that leads us perfectly to our final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to maybe chew on after this. As we continue to push the absolute boundaries of medical science, constantly creating new, potentially life-saving therapies, it's incredibly easy for us to focus solely on the cure itself, the final drug product.
Understandably so.
Right. But this deep dive into a company like Repligen really reveals that the true frontier of healthcare innovation also lies fundamentally in the sophisticated how these incredibly complex medicines are reliably, efficiently, and consistently brought from a concept in a lab to an actual patient, often at massive scale. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other picks and shovels companies might be out there, quietly shaping the future of industries that we, as consumers or observers, often overlook?
That is an excellent question to ponder. Lots of hidden innovators out there.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you. It was a fascinating company to discuss.